I've had a couple guys on now from like Mike Rogers, Steve Burgers, Rodrigo Vaghi, Tracy Taylor. Forgive me if I left people out, like Todd Fox, and a slew of guys that were in the game before I had even started. You were telling me that off the record, you were telling me that your first fight was in 1998. I was born in 1992. I was 6 years old when you had your first fight. So there was like a whole class of fighters that were kind of just before my time. However, obviously you've stayed within the game, so then I got introduced to you, I got to meet you, I got to talk to you and listen to some of your stories, and then I got to also listen to other fighters of that era talk about you. And this is a treat for me to have you on, and I can't wait to go down the memory lane, so I appreciate you.
I like to reminisce.
Before we even start on any of the stuff that's like current, I do want to start with like those humble beginnings. I am curious, like, when you started fighting, especially MMA, there were other martial arts that were much more established, like boxing, for instance, that there would have been, I don't want to say like an easier path to like, monetary success and fame. I would say that you definitely chose the less established path. Like it wasn't as well paved as it is now. I mean, MMA now is universal. Everybody knows about it. When you guys were doing it, it was a lot less popular, a lot more fringe, and a lot less societally accepted. What drove you to want to even enter that world? Like, why did you even want to start cage fighting?
It all started there with some tough man contest over in, I want to say it was Wild Country over in Illinois. I don't know if you ever heard of that. And every Wednesday you could go over there and sign up for a tough man contest.
And what is a tough man
contest? You dropped your name in a list and you fought 3 1-minute rounds with 18-ounce gloves. And people were doing shots in the audience. It was a free-for-all brawl every week. And
it was a good time. We
drove from St. Louis over there every week and signed up. And I never lost a fight. A couple of my buddies, I would talk them into going. They'd sign up. And, it was just luck of the draw who you drew. Because I do remember my buddy, he always brings up he had to fight some college football player.
Oof. But
I was about 180, 185. And you matched up with your weight class. But I never lost a fight over there. And the UFC was out for about 5 years, since about 1993, I think it started. So in 1998, I was getting ready to have a kid, and I just wanted to test myself. I knew I was tough in the street. I had a lot of street fights, and I could hold my own, but I wanted to test myself. And I signed up for an MMA fight, and I got choked out. So then I joined Rodrigo Vaghi's gym the next week, and that's where the story began.
So you were going to these tough man contests, just to test yourself? Because you wanted, like, was it like an adrenaline thing? Was it like you wanted to feel your oats and see what kind of like man you were? Like what drove you to even want to compete in these things? Was it just fun? Hey,
I just like to fight. When I was in high school, I went to St. Mary's my freshman year. I say I had 13 fights. I probably had more, but we'd meet behind the gym, and I don't think I ever won a fight. My dad told me he was going to quit paying for me to go to school at St. Mary's, because I think it was like $8,000 a year back then. It's probably ridiculous now, but that was a lot of money for us back then. And he's like, I'm gonna start sending you to kickboxing school or something, kind of as a joke. And I was always a little skinny guy, kind of, tall, skinny guy. I wore glasses, and people always used to test me. But by the time I got older, I liked it, and I liked to test myself. And street fighting was just getting me in trouble. So I knew every Wednesday I could go over there and get in a fight and not get in any trouble.
Why were you getting into fights? Like, were you getting into altercations, or was it just like, hey, do you want to fight? Were you getting like
one fight at St. Mary's? Like the seniors come down the hall with a paint gun one time, where we're shooting people, like freshman orientation, I guess you'd say.
That's not cool.
Well, it was one of those things. They were razzing us, but that was one of the times I got in a fight. But I don't know. I was from South Broadway. I heard my grandpa telling fighting stories. My grandpa used to actually be a sparring partner for the Spinks brothers.
Oh, no shit.
He was a junkyard guy from North St. Louis, my grandpa was, but he was solid, and he was known as a street fighter. And I guess listening to him tell his stories forever, it kind of got me into it, I guess.
Started rubbing off on you.
Yeah.
So at an early age, you kind of realized that you had an affinity, or at least like a gravitation towards combat. But you weren't necessarily like training. It's not like you were like 16
I wasn't
years
training.
old.
I just wasn't scared to fight, and I realized that was part of the battle, is not being scared to fight. Because I won a lot of fights that I should have lost just because I wasn't scared to fight.
Just wanted to take a second to pause the action and just tell you guys thank you so much for consuming our content. Easy Talk is a passion project. This podcast is just a bunch of like-minded people coming together to produce some cool stuff and talk to some cool people. One of the things I would very much appreciate is if you could possibly like the video or subscribe to the channel, just because it helps us in the algorithm and ultimately to grow, to get more exposure to everybody, including ourselves, and ultimately just make a better product. Take a second, I'd greatly appreciate it, and on with the show.
If you know what I'm saying.
I do. But, let me ask another question then in a different way. So like every time I would go out to have, because I think I understand what you're saying, but I want to clarify. Every time I had an MMA fight, I was never afraid of my opponent. I was never afraid of like getting hit or getting damaged or anything. I was always afraid of losing in front of my friends and family. Does that make sense? But I wasn't necessarily afraid of that individual. When you say you weren't afraid to fight, was there any part of you that was afraid to be looked as a fool if you lost, or did that just never faze you? Including, by the way, if you don't mind me asking, into your MMA career. Like, did you ever worry about like some of the things that I just described?
I mean, I might have lost to a couple guys where I knew I shouldn't have, and that embarrassed me. And I wasn't scared of. I just mean that. I don't know. Like Kevin Ingle paid me a compliment just recently after the last Shamrock show. We were all talking about old times and some of the old street fights, cage fights, fighting after the fights, and he was like, "You know, Mike Green, you're the how do you rate it? Say it." He more or less told me that I was the only person that he'd ever knew that wasn't a scared to fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We both acknowledge I'm not the most trained, I'm not the most stand-up fighter, most ground fighter, but I'll fight anybody, and people knew that. People were intimidated by that.
Of course. Well, it's an intimidating thing because it shows that win, lose, or draw, you're going to get in a fight with me. And that's the thing. I hate to jump up, but I do want to talk about modern days. Do you think that's something that's being lost right now in MMA, where guys aren't necessarily like...
People are training full-time now, but they don't have I don't think they have some of the heart that some people, that I like to think that I have, you know what I mean?
Do you think that heart comes from testing yourself early and often? Like, where do you think heart comes from? Or do you think you're just born with it?
Like I said, my whole freshman year when I first really started having one-on-one fights, that I could say my first fights, and I never won any of them, it just showed me, that I just kept fighting. I just kept doing it. And sooner or later, I kept winning a couple. By the time I was going to Melville, I wasn't losing any fights.
When you graduated high school, at what point were you like, you're going to these tough man competitions? At what point are you going from tough man competitions to let's get more established, let's compete, let's see what we can do with this sport?
The promoter for reality submission fighting, his name was Randy Greeman, and he watched me. I was working on the landing. I was doing security, and I had a good street fight one night, and I kicked a guy over the front of a car, and Randy approached me and was like, you ought to sign up for these fights. And he was the one who put on those reality submission fighting shows. And he ended up being a judge years later. I mean, he was a good dude. He was a big promoter. He went everywhere. He went down to New Orleans. Every time there was a UFC show, he was going to them. And he was one of those guys, and he approached me about it and I signed up through him. I was fighting on pro shows, and I'd never even been to a gym and trained before.
Back then, was there a distinction between amateur and pro, or just
no? In
pro?
Missouri, there was nothing legal at all. We were going out to Mizzou and fighting with garden hoses wrapped around for a ring. In Illinois, it was only pro. It was no amateur. So when I started fighting in Missouri, I had to get my Illinois record. I had to prove I never made no money. Like it was, I was at the bottom of the cards. I was fighting with some UFC veterans, but there was no money ever made. So I got that record relinquished, or I think that's the word. I don't even know. But then, so when I fought on Biondo's show, I think was the first sanctioned MMA fight in the state of Missouri.
Wow.
Was one Tony's show.
What year was that at, if you don't mind me asking, the first sanctioned one?
I want to say like 2002, maybe, something like that.
Man.
In Missouri.
So it really was.
Because Jesse Finney's shows, they weren't really sanctioned. We had, I think Kick was watching them. They just kind of overseen it a little bit, but it wasn't like a government sanctioning body or anything like that.
I think the first ones were kind of like smokers too, weren't they? Like you could still go in there and like smoke cigars indoors and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. I used to joke when we fought at South Broadway Athletic Club. because I never took anybody down, and one time I did there, and I said it was to get them out because I couldn't breathe because it was so smoky in there.
I had Jim Jenkins did one smoker boxing show.
At the Heart of St. Charles?
At the Heart of St. Charles. And by the time it was my turn, I was like maybe like the second to last fighter, like the co-main or featured fight or whatever. I was like one of the last three. Before the night had started, regular, Heart of St. Charles, like anything else. And then as the night progressed, you could literally see like a thin layer of smog. And then by the time it was ready for me to fight, I remember that fight was the most taxing on me, not even because of like the fight. The boxing match was like really tight. I won a split decision. I think I hit him 200 times. I think he hit me 190 times. It was really close. But all I could remember afterwards was like my lungs were like literally burning because I was just inhaling all that like smoke. And I told Jim, I was like, I love you. I will fight for you, whatever you want. I'm never doing another smoker again. Like, fuck
you said Jim
that.
Jenkins, Jim Boucher. I don't know if he used to be a state guy, Missouri athletic state guy. He used to put on shows over in Belleville, Illinois, and his were the same way. People would be smoking cigars. They had a cigar girl there, it was just a cloud of smoke over there.
It was a culture shock for me too, because like I grew up where like I remember when I was little, there were still like the non-smoking and smoking sections in restaurants, but like ever since I was like 10 years old, it's been all non-smoking. So like you just can't smoke inside. So I was even more shocked that the Heart of St. Charles even allowed it, to be completely frank with you. But anyway, not to get too lost on like the smoker shows, but it's just interesting to me because when you're saying these things, like you're going to California and you're fighting and there's only pro there. And then in Missouri, I mean, you're going to Mizzou and fighting in rings made of garden hoses. We say like nonchalantly, like it's the wild, wild west, but it really fucking is. And like you guys were doing it for like all glory and name and fun. There was no real means to make a living doing this, unless you're going to correct me.
I mean, I was making some money off of it. I was making a couple hundred shirts every few months, and I was selling T-shirts.
But that was more because
the old Team Green shirts.
That's more because like you were savvy though, because there's a lot of guys who not doing.
Oh yeah, and I was selling a couple hundred tickets. I mean, Jesse used to give me props when I turned in my money. It was all bank-faced. It was all perfect. And he'd give me two different sections because I had to have my South Side friend sit on one side of the ring, and I had to have my fucking county friend sit over on the other side of the ring.
That's fucking awesome.
And they'd put them together with John Duver's friends. They'd be pulling guns on each other in the parking lot. I mean, next to the ring. I mean, it was literally that way.
How'd you meet Jesse? Did you meet Jesse? Like, did you know Jesse before?
Jesse recruited me. He came to the show over in Illinois, and he seen how many tickets I sold. I didn't realize it at the time. So I was working at Lucky's on the Landing. It turned into Rum Jungle for a while. It was right where the Drunken Fish used to be, Bar St. Louis, back when the Landing was hot. And you're talking, we had the Rams here, so it was Monday Night Football down there was crazy.
It was a different time.
It was a different time. The Landing was the shit. And I was working at Lucky's doing security. Jesse Finney came down there, and he said he had seen me over in Illinois fight, and he was doing kickboxing shows over here in Missouri, and he wanted me to do an MMA fight. I was like, sure. So that was when I did the first one on his show where you couldn't punch with a closed fist on the ground. It was at over by Slough. It says on that flyer.
Union Station?
It's not Union Station. Union Hall over by Slough. And he used to put on some great shows over there, packed the place. But when I first did my first MMA fight over there, we couldn't close strike fist on the ground. You could only open hand strike. That was the rules in Missouri for amateur.
That's so wild.
And there was no such thing as pro. Pro didn't even turn almost right before I retired in Missouri, pretty much.
What year did you retire?
When I was 40, like 2000. What would that be? 2013.
Wow, I started 2012, 2013.
See, I knew I knew your face when you first started. I knew we were around each other for a minute, but it was total different worlds.
I remember, I think I saw you at a couple shows. I know that I saw you, I think maybe the first time I saw you was a Shamrock show, but I wasn't competing back then. And honestly, if you would have asked me, like right out of high school, if I was going to get into cage fighting, no way. Like, I was a wrestler, and I watched UFC, I watched WEC, I thought it was cool, but like, I never did any boxing, I never did any of this stuff, so I was like, cool, there's no way I could ever do it. And then lo and behold, a friend of mine brought me into a jiu-jitsu gym, and then the rest is history. You did
wrestle though, right?
I did wrestle in high school, but when I wrestled in high school, my passion was wrestling. I wanted to wrestle in college, But then I've told this story ad nauseum on the podcast, so forgive me. Like my mom got sick, so I wanted to stay home for that last year of her life. UMSL was the only school that like had a good finance program, so I went to UMSL, but they didn't have a wrestling team. So basically, I was like, well, you know, I'm done. Like I'll just my athletic days are behind me. I'll go to school and do that. And then after that year, after my mom passed, I was like, I was just like not doing too good, like mentally. Like I was like about to drop out of school. I was like, what the fuck am I doing? This is all so stupid. And then a buddy of mine was like, hey, come in and just do something, like let out some energy, let out some steam. And I was like, sure. And then thank God he did. In a lot of ways, Alvin probably saved my life, but and the rest is history. That's when Jay D'Amato was like, Jay D'Amato introduced me to Jim Jenkins.
That was my first jiu-jitsu coach.
Jay
D'Amato. Yeah.
No shit.
Down there across from the hospital when he was down in the basement.
The
I used
basement
to
of the
grapple
pizzeria?
with some blind kid down there that was the most incredible fighter that I've ever grappled with. Yeah, down in the basement over there.
Was he Bosnian?
He may have been. It's been so long ago, I forget his name, but he was a blind dude, and I used to grapple with him all the time down there at D'Amato's, and he was tough.
One of the things that I didn't think I was going to get from this conversation is like this kind of blast from the past for myself as well, because you said a lot of names, and from Jim Jenkins, Jay D'Amato, Vaghi, Berger, Rogers, even Tony Biondo. I didn't even know Tony Biondo did shows back in the day.
Yeah, they did a few different shows. Then they did John Mankey, Mike Rogers, Steve Berger, and Tony did JMST promotions, and they did a few fights then too. I think they did one at Al Rabaski's. They did quite a few shows. I think they did one at Shady Jack's.
Wasn't there like a hotel? So for those that don't know where like I don't
Stratford Inn right here.
Yeah. I don't want to like dox myself too much about like where the studio is at, but like we are really close at where the old Stratford Inn used to be, and you guys used to have fights down there too as well, right?
Oh yeah.
Throwback, man.
Them were real good fights too.
Really?
That was when it was getting bigger and growing, and I mean we'd pack that place.
You when you started towards when you ended, MMA as a whole had changed drastically. It went from fringe to, you know, I remember when John McCain called it human cockfighting, and then it turned into a state-sanctioned sport, and then it turned into what I would say is like the beginnings of mainstream. Like 2012, 2013 was like during, like I remember Jose Aldo was coming up. It was like when the UFC had just merged the WEC into the UFC. Like that's when I had graduated high school and I was thinking about getting into.
That's when it went legal here in Missouri, right?
Yeah.
In 2013.
Can we briefly discuss a little bit about that transition? And I mean, you've seen a lot of it. Actually, you've seen all of it. Let's be honest. Whether you were competing or not competing, because you're still around the sport. What do you ever stop to think like, holy shit, this thing has changed so much from those days?
Oh yeah, there's so much money to be made. There's so much opportunity. I mean, I like to think that I opened that door up, obviously, since I was helping build it.
You're a pioneer.
But I think sometimes, not to say, I don't know. I mean,
Say it.
I know. I just think if I was at this time now and I was in the same shoe, there's a lot of different opportunities that could have came to me. I fought Missouri, Florida, Indiana, Illinois. I bounced around a little bit, but
We're gonna take I need to scan some of these because I want to edit them into it, and I'll probably edit it in here now. You brought in a bunch of these old posters from back in the day, and some of the names on some of the cards that you were on. And what's interesting to me is also to see like everybody's baby photos from Mike Rogers and Steve Berger. But it's like, I mean,
everybody thin and in shape.
Yes. I shouldn't have said that.
I said it.
Mike, I'm so sorry. No, it was just interesting because, you know, these were the names. Even one of these is like, it's like a young Rampage Jackson with like no facial hair. And it's just so crazy to think. And of course it's the case. It's like all these household names nowadays had to start somewhere. And you were along there with them. You said something earlier about like, if you would have started, like if you know, the parameters were different and you were to come up now, the story and the opportunities would be different. I have two questions. The first one I'll ask, it's probably the more intricate one. Do you hold any animosity like within because of that? Like, is there any part of you that's like, man, I spent all this fucking time doing this shit for, you know, selling t-shirts and stuff like that, when if I were to come up right now, what I could have done? Like, is there any part of you that's like,
No, it's always going to be just the time you're in. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I helped build it, but I just think not that I'm like foul about it. I just think in a different time, I could have had different opportunities. I mean, I could have been possibly on that Contender show or get my foot in the door. Obviously, everybody wants to fight in the UFC. At the time when I was fighting, it wasn't just so easily to get to. They maybe had 50 people on their roster. You know what I mean?
it's interesting that you say though, because I would also make the argument that like while the roster has never been bigger, I would make the argument that, man, these kids nowadays are training at such a young age.
Oh, yeah.
And everyone is just so fucking cold and so good and so deadly that like there's more fighters now than there ever has been, and it's still, I think, very esteemed and very difficult to get into the UFC. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I agree.
Like
I just mean,
I understand the criticism of like there's the Contender series, there's Tough, there's
when I was fighting, I just mean every show that I could fight on, I did locally in the Midwest. But I just think, well, I don't know. I just like to think sometimes and dream a little bit. You know what I mean?
What do you, when you dream, what are some of the things that you see? Like, what are some of the things that you would have
Just
wanted
me
to do?
fighting and making more money and doing commercials or something. You know what I mean? Hooker, me and Hooker could bang. You know what I mean? That'd be my boy afterwards. We'd have a beer, but we'd beat the shit out of each other.
What do you think it is about fighting that you gravitate towards so much? Like, obviously, we've established that you're not afraid of a scrap. That's one thing. But what is it about fighting that you enjoy so much? Is it the visceral nature of it, the adrenaline, the pain? Like, what is it about fighting that just seems to do it for you?
I look at old pictures of me when I used to come out of the ring or before I'd get in, and my eyes, it's just a high. I mean, I know it's something, a rush. I mean, I don't know. I like to test myself. I like to know I could defend myself. I spent a long time being bullied and being the little guy to where now it ain't like I would look for trouble, but I definitely find the bully and bump into him to test him and maybe, knock a chip off somebody's shoulder. I like doing that. There was a couple times where people would fuck with me and I'd beat their ass and be like, damn, you knocked a chip off my shoulder. I've heard it a couple times, you know what I mean? It's just one of those things where, like, I ran around with a crew where if we went out, we didn't get in a fight, we'd stop on the way home and beat each other up sometimes. That's just the way it was. Jermaine Andre, you remember him? You heard his name? He choked me out at the Tasmania one time because I was trying to fight him. I mean, lots of my friends that I'm friends with now, I've fought with before. Lance Benoist, me and Lance fought before. We became best buddies. He was working with me down on the landing.
It's like if we went out and we didn't find a fight, we'd fight each other when we got home.
Oh, we'd stop at the park and beat the shit out of each other.
You guys are scrappers, man. That's crazy.
And I never ran like in a gang. It's nothing like that.
No,
I was just outside. When we waited for the bus to go to school at St. Mary's, I remember we'd be sparring in the lot.
Would people like gravitate towards you, or were they trying to steer clear from you? I mean, if there was like a group of guys that were just looking to bang, I'd be like, oh.
Well, then they would find me. Then we'd test to see who was gonna win. I mean, it was one of them things. In high school, I was bad. I mean, every time we went to a party, I was fighting. But I always came. I never looked like the bad guy because, like I said, I would let somebody else be an asshole, and then I'd stand up and be like, hey, dickhead, what the fuck is wrong with you?
So it wasn't that you would instigate a fight, but if it was present,
I'd see.
I'll be your Huckleberry.
I could read the room and tell who was looking for trouble. And hey, I'll be your Huckleberry right here.
How hard is that now? I mean, I get the sense that this was like the majority of your life, and obviously it's not necessarily something you're doing currently, right?
No, I can't even find a fight. I must be looking old. Nobody fucks with me no more.
Or maybe you just got like, I will say this. I've said this multiple times.
My last fight, street fight, you'll laugh at this. This is a good one. I went to
yesterday.
It was no.
Subway.
This is back when I was at Vinyl Images, so it's been about 6-7 years ago. I went to this bar on a buddy of mine's birthday, and we walk in, and here's this little Southside kid, and he's like, Mean Mike Green, and he's jocking me. I mean, he could have been a cheerleader for him. He carried the bag to the ring, and his buddy's sitting there just fucking mean mugging me, and I was like, hey, what's up? And he's like, you don't look that fucking tough to me. And I was like, these glasses, come off. We could go outside. And within 2 minutes of me walking in this place, I'm greeted by a fan, and immediately this guy is ready to test me. So I went outside and beat the shit out of this dude. They got it on video, and I was wearing my work shirt, and I got in trouble at work and everything. I was like, I wasn't going out looking for trouble. It just happened to.
Were you never like afraid of like, dude? I'll tell you something that I have a legitimate fear of is like, it's not even that I'm afraid of like getting hurt or something like, or having an altercation that will result in me getting beat up. You hear about like everybody whooping out knives and guns and shit like that. Like when you tell me stories about like you guys like used to go out there looking for fights, I feel like it's almost like it's literally a different time because nowadays that's not what happens.
Yeah,
nowadays,
everybody wasn't carrying guns.
Yeah, nowadays it's like you fuck around, you will find out, and that's why like I hate to say it this way, like I do like the fact that I carry a confidence in me because of my training, and it's not that I'm necessarily looking for trouble, but if trouble finds me, I know that at the very least I can handle myself. You know what I mean? But the other aspect of it is I don't know how many of these guys are fucking strapped. So like it's not even I don't think you could what you just described to me as like your youth and like your exuberance, that does not exist anymore, dude. You get shot and killed now. Especially talking about the landing, do that shit nowadays. People will kill you
we
for
had
a
gunfire
five.
down there.
You know what I mean? So like out of curiosity, back then, were there like did you ever even have to like worry about like someone being strapped or someone getting out a knife?
Yeah, I've been shot. I got shot in the arm with a 22 one time. A kid, it was a street fight. They stole a kid's bike, and I was like, we went over there to get the kid's bike back, and the kid popped up over the thing with a gun. I was like, I shoved that BB gun up your ass, and boom, he shot me in the arm.
Like,
shot my buddy in the hand. It was a 22 rifle. I thought it was a BB gun. Another time we were on the landing, Finney, the whole crowd was there. Engel, they'll all vouch for this one, and something went down outside at the front door at Lucky's. I was working security. And a guy, boom, boom, boom. Everybody running, diving under pool tables.
You're just shooting up in the air?
Shot it up in the air.
Okay.
My dumb ass runs inside, grabs a broom, broke the broomstick, and I was standing inside the doorway waiting for this motherfucker to come in and take his head off. And I got teased later, like, what the fuck are you thinking? I was like, I was thinking I wasn't going to let him come in here and shoot me.
You at least go down fighting. That's wild. It's also wild to hear some of these names because like Mike Engel, Jesse Finney, all these guys now, I guess I know them. I want to be careful how I say this because I am not trying to sound disparaging in any way, but they're older now. They're a little bit more mature. And like when I look at those guys, I don't get any of these vibes of like, their youth and exuberance. It's interesting to hear these stories because it's like you just see these people in a different light.
Oh, you'll have to have Jesse on to tell you. Jesse was a banger.
Really?
Jesse was a street fighter.
Finney?
Yeah.
Finney? No way.
Yep.
What was it like altercations or was it like he was just looking?
He was like me. We'd be having fun somewhere. You know how people are. If you're somewhere and you're having a good time and somebody's souping somebody up, somebody's gonna get mad. Fight. Somebody's gonna get mad. Oh yeah, he was I known him to do a couple of head kick KOs before.
Wow. So he was promoting shows. He kind of recruited you. Talk a little bit about those mid-2000s. So not necessarily the start of you getting introduced to this life, but now you're kind of fighting regularly. You're developing a name for yourself. What did fighting evolve into for you?
It was a steady hustle. I was running around. I was always bartending. So I was raising my Maddie by myself. So I worked nights bartending, and then me and her would go to the gym every day. She was doing karate with Sid Gee. So she'd go over to Sid Gee's room, and I'd be over in the group classes doing all of our training. We'd go run. I mean, it was just a steady daily thing for years.
And there was never any aspect of you that thought, like, this is not what I'm going to do. This is, like, what you were kind of bred to do, the only thing you wanted to do was fighting?
I was making a little bit of play money. I was having fun. I was meeting lots of people. Everywhere I went, somebody knew me. I mean, I get pulled over and a cop be like, "Oh, I seen you and your kid on the Riverfront Times." I mean, I don't know if any of that would ever happen if I didn't fight. I'd probably be in jail for fighting. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing I was going to say is like when you're talking about all this fighting and stuff like that, the other thing I wanted to say is like, if not the immediate repercussions of like someone having a gun or something, it's like, did the cops never show up?
Oh, yeah, I did probation a few times. I did 90 days of workhouse. And
come on, we're just boys being boys. I thought this was America.
Yeah, Justice Center was a fun one. The CO, or I think they call her CO, the lady. So I'm in my dorm, in my room. I had to do 90 days. It was like a shock treatment, just for a back alley fight in Soulard.
Were they trying to scare it out of you?
It wasn't my first assault charge, and it was one of those things. It was either that or go to prison for real.
For real, yeah.
And it was just me by myself, and I fought a couple of people, but it got turned around on me. I ain't crying about it, just what it was. But I'm in my dorm, and I hear this lady over the microphone. She's like, "Is that Mean Mike Green in there?" And I'm like, "What the fuck?" She's like, "Come on out here." And I go outside, and this girl used to come to all of our fights because she dated a guy named Titus Taylor.
Oh yeah, I just saw him on the thing.
Titus Taylor was he was an NCAA state wrestler champ from Illinois, but he was a street dude, and he used to date the CO when I was in there. So she took care of me. She was bringing me magazines and candy, and everybody's like, "Who the fuck is this guy?" Well, she told everybody I was a fighter. So then,
oh no, did they try to test your oats?
Well, one guy handed me a grocery list. He's like, "Here, you're gonna fill this for me," and I was like, "Get the fuck out of here." He's like, "Oh, I was just testing you, white boy," one of them things. But I was scared of then. I mean, I still remember my heart about coming out of my chest because I was like, oh, here we go.
Oh yeah, dude. I had a friend. I don't want to say I have a friend. I had a friend that when we used to go out, especially when I was like starting to train earlier, he would be the motherfucker that would like start talking shit. Like, my buddy trains, he'll fuck you up. I'm like, hey, relax. You shut the fuck up. Like, if I want to start something, that's my prerogative. Like, I need you to quiet.
I had a few people who would throw.
And obviously, he was the one that never trained, never knew how to throw a punch or anything, but the one with the biggest mouth, and that takes a lot for me to say because I also had a pretty big mouth. You know what I mean? So it was just one of those interesting circumstances. Talk to me about the progression of MMA while you're in it, and then when you started to have the thoughts of retirement. Like, what were the precursors to that? Was it like you just were getting more damaged in fights, or your body's not recovering as much? Like, when was it that you were starting to have those discussions or those internal dialogues of like, maybe I got to start hanging this up?
It was about 2010. I was probably 55, 60 fights into my career, and I got knocked out clean. First time I ever fought at 145.
Jesus, you fought at like 185, so 145 is a 40-pound
I fought at 210 one time.
Jesus, you're like
with quarters in my
you're
pocket.
The OG. You're
with
the
my
OG.
steel toes and quarters in my pocket.
Well, Sean Woodson did something very similar. He started when he boxed Bo Coons and at heavyweight, and now he fights in the UFC at 145. But forgive me, this is your story.
No, I remember that. I was cornering Bo Coons. That's when I first met
Oh, shit.
Now I'm a big fan of Sean. Yeah, Sean's a good dude.
So you got.
I just mean sometimes not to go backstep, but when you say, and Sean would kick my ass, but back in the day, if it was me right now, it could be a different story. And that's what I'm saying is different times is different things. By the time he was coming up, I was cornering people. Not that I mean to fight him, but the opportunities that guy's having right now. I mean, he's a great fighter, and it's incredible. But I just see the opportunities that are there now. He wasn't stuck just here fighting in St. Louis his whole career.
Yeah. I understand exactly what you're saying. There was also like a difference of like the promotions on the entryway to like start building you up. You know what I mean? So I totally understand. But like I was asking originally, forgive me, was you
about the retiring?
You had a fight. It was the first time
I got knocked out. I started thinking about it. And then honestly,
were you performing well up until that knockout?
Yeah, I had never been knocked out. I never even had no real major injuries. I hardly ever bled out of 70-something fights. I barely even bled. Honestly, though, part of the reason, too, was Maddie was in high school, and she was training like with kids like Max.
And Maddie is your daughter,
my oldest daughter.
Yes.
She's like 27 now. But she wrestled all through high school at Lindbergh with Max Sharayev. And Max?
Max Choriev.
Choriev.
Oh, yeah.
So I'd known Max since he was like a eighth
Little
grade.
kid.
And I seen that kid go from 8th grade to junior year in my weight class. And I was like,
fuck that.
I'll be 40. I'm clocking out. You know what I'm saying? I just knew it was time to turn. I didn't want to be fighting Maddie's friends because I was fighting James Motorshead. You remember that name?
I do.
I mean, I fought him twice my last couple of fights. They were all 20-year-old kids, and I was 40 years old.
Trust me, if there's anybody that understands that, it's me. My last fight was against a 20-year-old, and everyone thought that I had like the experience advantage. And then you asked the kid, and he'd been training since he was like 4 years old. We had been training roughly the same amount of time.
The little stud who got into the UFC?
Austin Basher. Yeah. Like I remember thinking like, I said before that fight, I was like, a brown belt at 20. I was like, either this kid's the real deal or he got gifted a brown belt. Boy, that kid was the real fucking deal.
Yeah, he's a tough kid.
But it made, I go back to this about my own personal retirement. It wasn't that I lost. It was that I it was like I saw the opening of a window to like what the future is going to hold. I was like, I was 29 at the time. That kid's 20. So like Father Time's not on my side. And then this kid is like the tip of the iceberg. You're going to start seeing these kids now when they're coming in, they're not training boxing or jiu-jitsu or wrestling. They're training all of it.
MMA.
Yeah, they're training all of it since they were 4 years old. And they're 20, 21 years old. The Raul Rosas Jr.'s, the Austin Bashis. This is the next generation of kids of killers. And this is going to be like the more common thing. And I thought to myself, I hate to admit it this way, Mike, but it was like I didn't waste time. It's not that I wasted time, but I spent time doing the other things. I spent time going to school. I spent time getting a job. I spent time doing all this other stuff when there were other people that were only doing fighting. And that's like, no, I'm not crying over spilled milk. Like I'm very happy with the choices that I made in life. So I'm not trying to like belittle myself or shit on anybody else. Like, God bless you. You know what I mean? But it was just this like epiphanous moment of like, it's not going to be me. I didn't put the chips in the right.
There's got to be a time. You got to tell yourself, I didn't want to be fighting.
But I did it when I was 29. That's why I was curious. Like for you, it was a little older. There was a couple more variables in it. Like the outcome wasn't what you wanted. There was the variable of like, you're seeing the next generation come up. Your daughter's a part of that generation. You're like, oh shit, like what is going on here? Isn't there a part of you that if there was a league of just like retired fighters, would you get back into it, you think?
Yeah, I'd fight.
Yeah. I would too. Like, I'll be honest with you. Like, if I had like another guy that was kind of similar to me who's like, hey, I don't really want to fucking train that hard and I don't really want to cut weight. Do you want to have a scrap? I might say yeah. But the problem is then...
It takes a lot of time, though. You got to be dedicated, too.
What?
I mean, to fight consistently. I mean, I was living at the gym daily.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I don't have the time for that no more.
How many rounds do you think you've done in your life? You think it's in the hundreds of thousands, or do you think it's in the millions?
Of rounds, like sparring and everything? I wouldn't say millions. That's a lot, but I have no idea.
No, maybe, yeah, millions is a lot.
I think I got like 20-something kickboxing, and I think 16 boxing, 20-something kickboxing, and 70-something MMA fights. So roughly a little over 100 fights. That's just in the ring, though. You ask some people who know me, and they'll talk more about my street fights than my ring fights.
How do you want to be remembered? Do you want to be remembered as like the street fighter? Do you want to be remembered like you clearly take a lot
as the motherfucker you don't fuck with?
Yeah. That's I was gonna ask. Like you clearly take pride in that.
Yeah, I like being that guy. I mean, I didn't go to school. I lived with my grandparents. I didn't play any sports when I was a kid. I lived with my grandparents. My parents were divorced. I didn't have nobody to take me to soccer. Like my little girl now, we're taking her to cheer, we're taking her to gymnastics every night of the week, and I didn't have that when I was a kid. So when I started fighting when I was 22, that was like a new sport. I mean, it was a new sport. It was only out, MMA was only out for a few years. And some of them things they say boxer, some of them say freestyle. Oh. That's just because I never learned to kick till I went up to Finney's.
Well, no, it also shows you like when you started, it was still this thought process of it wasn't known as mixed martial arts. It was a style of fighting going. I guess it's going to be the boxer versus the wrestler, exactly. The jiu-jitsu guy versus the judo guy. It was they described you by your style of fighting, which is hilarious because now I think the description now is like this guy is an orthodox or a southpaw, but they're all universally MMA fighters. It's a foregone conclusion that everyone knows jiu-jitsu and boxing and kickboxing and wrestling and all these other things. Let me ask you a little bit more of a broader question, if you don't mind. Do you think that MMA even now is still on the ascension and that it's growing? Do you think the sport is plateauing, or do you think it's regressing?
I think it's definitely growing. Maybe not in the United States, but if you look at UFC or all the leagues, I mean, it's all around the world now. It's definitely growing. You could watch fights almost every night of the week if you wanted to. Replays are new live shit. You could only say it's gotten bigger and better. I mean, every show is extravagant nowadays. It's almost as I can't say it's plateaued, but it is at a high. Where else are you going to be able to fight and fit any more people? Madison Square Garden fills up. I mean,
no, I do agree in the sense of like its ability. I guess the reason I asked the question is there is a lot of criticism for the direction of MMA in the last like year and a half. The proliferation of pirating, that's more of on the business aspect. but there is a growing discontent with the UFC's ability to create quote unquote superstars, whatever it is that means. I think the problem that we have is that we kind of got.
Well, like Paddy Pimblett getting ranked number 5, so he gets his number 1 title
Yeah,
shot.
well, I think
shit
we also have like a whole generation of MMA fans that came up during the Ronda and the Conor phase and didn't really understand anything before that. So I think that that's like the only thing they know. So now that there isn't this like clear, superstar like head and shoulders above everybody else, they're making the comments that the sport has quote unquote died. I think that there is something to be said about what you just said too about like the rankings, who gets the title shots, the bureaucracy of fighting. But I would also still say that the reason why I enjoyed MMA so much, and I didn't realize this until later, because I was never a boxing fan. Like when I was growing up, I didn't really watch boxing. The first kind of form of combat sports that I watched was actually WEC. I didn't even know that UFC existed. WEC was, I was like, oh, what is this? You know what I mean? And then I was like hooked immediately. I was like, this is amazing. But then when I, like 3 or 4 years into MMA, I realized, okay, boxing is a thing that I'm gonna have to learn. Maybe I should watch some boxing fights. I got inundated in the world of boxing and how like the bureaucracy and the politics of boxing prevented some of the best fights that could have happened from happening. When I was growing up, Mayweather versus Pacquiao was like supposed to happen 3 or 4 times, but like this, this variable fell through, or this guy didn't want to make this deal, or they wanted to be the A side. And then when the fight did happen, it was a complete dud. It was Pacquiao past his prime, which is a common trait amongst Mayweather fights, if you're going to ask me. But it was interesting because then I looked at that juxtaposed position. I will say this about the UFC. I mean, you can't really run or hide in that organization. Like the best fights will eventually happen. Maybe they don't happen on the same framework that we would like a Paddy Pimblett getting ranked higher and perhaps getting a title shot over some other people. But I would say that the UFC is definitely the best promotion that's ever existed at making the fights like the best fighting the best.
Oh yeah, I don't think that. Well, Paddy he's undefeated still, I believe.
Yeah.
I mean, the opportunity
He just beat the shit out of Michael. I hate to say it
Chandler?
this way.
Oh yeah,
bro, he beat the
him.
bricks out of him. I did not think that fight was going to go that bad. It was interesting too to see how much bigger he was than Chandler. I will say that Paddy's a big motherfucker.
Yeah, he is.
At 55, he's a big guy. But I guess what I'm trying to say is like, this was something that I was like a foregone conclusion. I thought that the way the UFC worked was like how boxing worked and how kickboxing worked and all these other things. And I was then kind of, abruptly surprised that is just not the way it works. And that the only way boxers somehow get like the fights that you really want to see is if Dubai comes in and throws so much fucking money these guys' ways to actually make it happen. And then even then, I hate to say it this way, perhaps I'm a bit of like a casual Andy. Dude, boxing matches to me, Mike, are like so fucking boring. They're so fucking boring. And I will stand on this hill and die on it. Because like in MMA, I mean, dude, you're glued to the screen because at any moment someone can throw a knee, someone can throw a kick, someone can take you down, get a submission or whatever. Don't get me wrong, you got your snoozers as well, but like those are few and far between compared to the moments. And whenever I watch MMA, I'm like fucking white knuckling it, like anything can happen at any time. And then I watch boxing and I think to myself, okay, even if someone gets rocked, they'll have an 8 count, and if they get too close, they'll just hug it out and then wait for the ref to break it up. Like watching boxing after watching MMA is so fucking brutal.
It's a big difference.
I might get a lot of flack for that, but like I'll stand on that hill. Like if you watch a main card UFC and then watch a boxing match, and it's just like a fundamentally different experience. I think there's a reason why boxing has receded, and it's also because of the rules. But
I like on all the new unorthodox boxing that's going on though too. The
like
smaller
the bare
rounds,
knuckle and
the
stuff
triangle
like that?
rounds, the bare knuckle stuff.
I will say the same thing. I also enjoy that. I think boxing is kind of finding its renaissance now more than ever, but it's in spite of boxing, not because of it.
I think a lot of it used to have to do with all the shady promoters though too back in the day.
Like the Don Kings. And
Don Kings, all of them. I mean, that was just one of them that we know of. You know what I mean?
Well, it's interesting that boxing has the Ali Act, and then there's like this direct inflection of like a lesser product because of it. I'm not trying to say that like, the UFC doesn't have its own problems in any which way. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not giving anybody a golden pass here, but it is kind of interesting that boxing, I think Dana White said it best on an interview. He's like, every boxing match is like a going out of business sale, where it's like everyone's just trying to grab as much money as they can before we go out of business on this one. It's kind of sad because I want to like boxing. I really do. When I look at boxing, when I look at MMA, I'm like, why would you watch this? Maybe, Maybe people tell me that I'm a casual and all these other things, but if you give me a UFC card or if you give me, um, I'll be honest with you. When I watched Canelo versus Crawford, like it was a great match. Like it was technical and great boxing, and the I could appreciate what I was watching. But the whole time I was watching it, I was like, was there any point in that fight ever where anybody was even close to finishing a
To
fight?
getting hurt, to
Yeah,
getting taken out.
it's
No.
just like so. Then it's like, okay, well, this is the same reason. The same reason I didn't like that is the same reason I don't like watching a basketball game.
It's like
'Cause I don't
just
give
they
a
fight just to get through it.
well,
you
no,
know?
you're scoring points. It's like I don't care about points. Oh, you got 80 points. I got 79 points. So what? You're the better guy. Like, it's not even about whether or not there is a finish. It's this like feeling that someone's going for a finish. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah,
And that there's just so less.
because you got
ways.
12 rounds to dick around.
12 3-minute rounds, and like they're afterly talking about like how the first 4 rounds are like feeler rounds. They get time. I was like, okay. Meanwhile, in the UFC, you're getting guys get sparked in the first 15 seconds. You know what I mean? It's just a fundamentally different product. I don't know. I'm not trying to shit on boxing. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to compare it to other forms of combat and how entertaining they can be. I'm sure you could pick out like a really great boxing match and a really snoozy MMA fight and be like, see, it's not the same. But anyway, I'm glad I did MMA. I also did. Did you ever dabble like? Obviously, you did MMA, and obviously, you had like different ruled fights, right? But was it ever boxing did have its commission. Boxing did have its rules and its structure. Did you ever dabble in boxing and have a boxing career, or was it only?
No, it was just like the tough man boxing contest.
Gotcha. Did it ever interest you to possibly get into that, or no?
I mean, I learned I did the striking, and I just like I said, when no, I fell in love with MMA. Just using all my limbs. Once I learned how to kick, I was kicking everybody, anything. You know what I mean?
Was it liberating because what there were less rules like to inhibit you?
Kind of. It's not as formal.
Yeah, it's grittier. It's realer. What do you think about the future of MMA? Or do you think about the future of MMA?
I'm a fan of it. I mean, I still get all the pay-per-views. I'm still hooked on it. I watch. I like to keep up with it.
What do you think about the Paramount deal?
I'm kind of excited for it.
I think it's smart. Yeah. Everybody I know pirates, and I'm just like, this is crazy. But it's not that they're pirating because they don't want to. They're not pirating because they can't afford it or whatever. It's this growing discontent with like the whole like product, like to have to pay for ESPN Plus monthly.
Well, nobody has no loyalty to anybody. I mean, if they could steal it, if they're gonna pirate it, they could pirate it.
I would actually disagree. I think if you make it cheaper and easier to get to, people will actually pay for it because it's just easy. Like, there's this. Tony, can you chat GPT this for me? What is the thing? It's like there's like this threshold where once you get to a certain point of something being so expensive, people are gonna pirate it out of spite. But like by lowering the price, you actually bring more people in. It's equilibrium price because you're gonna bring more people in and actually make more revenue. But there's like a scientific notion to this. It's like people inherently don't want to pirate things because it's like synonymous with shadiness and like possibly getting like viruses on your computer or whatever like that. Like if you provide an easy way to pay for it that's relatively cheap, like not super expensive, and you kind of lower the barrier to that transaction, you'll actually get more people that want to do it. The problem is you're paying $15 a month to then pay $80 per pay-per-view. So you got to be a diehard fan. Look at how many of those are there.
Yeah, the ESPN Plus keeps going up
and the quality
every
hasn't
month.
gone up. Yeah,
Same thing. Yeah,
I know it's kind of like a difficult thing to Google.
I understand what you're saying though. You get 1 million people to pay $20 compared to 500,000 to pay $60.
30 yeah.
There's a thing called the piracy curve.
The piracy curve. Thank you. It's like once you get to a certain point, like people don't want to pirate. They would rather actually. It's not that they want to pay for it. It's that they don't want to have the hassle of pirating it. You have to find the website. It's like a choppy signal.
Shitty
People,
server.
yeah, people want like. I would rather pay $30 and I get the 4K connection and I get all the bells and whistles rather than like pirating it and I'm watching this little screen right there and it's just like not the same experience. Yes,
It's
sir.
like
It's called the price of the price elasticity of demand.
Price elasticity of demand. Thank you.
That's what the scientific term.
Thank you. I knew that I was kind of like on the edge there, but I wasn't wording it properly. I don't know. Long story short, it's just one of those things where I'm like, I think they're doing a lot of things that are amazing. I think the Paramount deal is great. I think it's in the step of the right direction. But there is a part of me that I did like the idea of like a pay-per-view for these grand events. Like when Conor boxed with Floyd Mayweather, it's like, I know everybody was watching that, you know what I mean? And no one was bitching
Everybody
about the
had
price.
parties, and it was
Yeah, and it was a $100 pay-per-view, and people still forked it over. I mean, I'm sure people were trying to pirate it. Don't get me wrong, that's not without cause. But it's not like you had to go through all these extra bells and whistles. You just buy the pay-per-view, just go to Showtime. Like it was easy peasy. I don't know, man. Long story short, I think they're in the right direction on this one. I think streaming is the future. I also think that all of these companies understand that that's the future. That's why they're all going for live sports. We were talking about your proximity to the sport off the record. We're both going to be at the Knicks Shamrock event this weekend. Can you kind of just describe to me what it means to be a part of the sport now, to whatever extent? Some of the emotions you feel when you watch fighting. Do you still get giddy for fight night?
Oh, yeah. I get excited, real excited for the fights. It's part of my job, too. I'm supposed to get the guys hyped up and get them wound up, get them, if I want to slap them in the face, get them pumped up before they go out. It's kind of part of the deal. And
what do you do for some of those that don't understand? Like, I'm a fighter, so I've seen you in the back, but like, what is it like what is your responsibility on fight night?
I'm kind of the backstage manager. I run the guys out. I make sure they're gloved, make sure their nails are cut, make sure they got the red or the blue tape on, and then I walk them out individually. And then I tell them when it's time to walk. Basically, just backstage manager.
Yeah, just making sure the show flows. And how does that feel for you? I mean, does it give you?
I like it. It keeps me involved. I get to stay close to all my fight family. I've been with Shamrock since about 2000, 99 or 2000, I think.
Yeah, I didn't realize that you and Finney went back that far, if I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I knew that you fought for Shamrock and you're in the Shamrock Hall of Fame, but I didn't know that you and Finney were like, rolling in the same groups, fucking allegedly starting fights on the
We weren't
on the
starting
landing.
fights. We were finishing them.
That's wild. That's crazy to think now. Now he's like the suited up guy at the show. Is there anything that you look back on in your career with fondness, or is there anything that you wish you would have done different? The floor is yours now, man. I've kind of asked all the questions, like the bullshit questions. Now I want to talk about like the intricacies, if you don't mind. I want to know.
I like saying who I fought. I lost to some big names, and it's. Even though I lost, it made me proud. Lance Benoist, Miles Jury, people that
both would go on to
UFC
fight in the
veterans.
UFC.
You know what I mean? In some ways, I like to. I hear the word gatekeeper a lot about talking about people, and here around town, I like to think that I was the gatekeeper, because if you beat me, a lot of the guys that beat me went on and had nice careers. They were all younger than me. Don't get me wrong. But yeah.
Is there a part of you that also takes pride in the fact that you shared on the same card with some of these fighters?
Oh yeah.
All these posters that you showed me, I saw Mike Rogers, Steve Berger.
Yeah, Mike Rogers is a good friend of mine, and all we did was came across each other years ago and fought on the same card, and we were both respectful and we became friends.
You've seen one of the aspects I didn't even think about this is you've probably seen a lot of gyms come and go then as well.
Yeah. Including my own.
Yeah. Do you mind if we talk about that a little bit?
About my gym?
Yeah, I mean, to what extent that you want to. I'm not trying to open up old wounds or anything like that.
We had a good gym down Southside Fight Club down on the South Side. It was cheap, and I heard rumors, what's Mike Green going to teach people? Everybody who came to my gym learned how to fight. Everybody who came there had heart though to fight, wanted to fight. It's just one of them things.
Some of the guys that came out of there were like the Newman brothers.
Yeah. Bo Coons fought out of there. Me and Bo were running hills at Chronolet Park, and he was my first one that came joined. Wally Vladimir Frankovich.
What made you want to start your own gym?
Chris Heatherly.
Because you were telling me how you got choked out that one time, then you immediately started training with Vaghi. At what point?
I kind of got it thrown in my lap. They were rehabbing an old building on the South Side, and everybody knew me as Mike Green, the MMA fighter, and I was training people down in the basement of South Broadway Athletic Club at the old place. And a guy who was spending a lot of money rehabbing the old Coca-Cola factory said, "Hey, I got the perfect room for you a gym," and he kind of just sat it in my lap. Wrapped it up and gave it to me.
You're like, sure.
We ran it for a couple of years, but that building was so old, the walls were like 3-foot brick. And when I was a kid, there was no windows in that building. So when we get in there and get it 130 degrees or whatever, it got hot.
It's literally an oven.
It was just oozing water out of the walls, and it was hard to keep it clean. That's how I got out of my lease, because it was getting like black mold. Literally, the walls were just that bad.
Jesus.
But I missed the gym. It was nice. It was a good place for people to go, and I had a full cage in there.
A lot of the guys would go on and train at Burgers. Did you also go to Burgers or?
No, I didn't.
No,
I
gotcha.
trained with Berger when he was at Finney's and when he was at Rodrigo's.
Yeah, but not necessarily when.
Not when everybody left my gym.
Yeah.
Some of my guys, a handful of them all went to Burgers though. Yeah.
When you transitioned from fighter to coach, how'd that feel?
Gave me a headache.
Yeah. Yeah. Fighting simple.
I liked it,
coaching.
but I mean, I could coach you and tell you the basics of it, but I'm not the best coaches to watch out for this or watch out for this. I was more hype you up kind of coach.
Let's fucking go, boys.
Yeah, let's go. And I missed the place though. We had a couple of guys had problems with other people. Timmy Connors, remember Timmy Connors?
No, Timmy Connors. Tim Connors?
Tim Connors used to train with me. He was a boxer. He was a stud. He's like a little brother for a long time. He trained with me at Finney's. Well, he had a guy who wanted to fight one of my guys at my gym, but we couldn't get him on a card, so we just let him fight at the gym one night and had everybody around. It was one of those kind of
An unsanctioned fight.
Which I notice now, like Boxing Association, that's why they're saying you can't have sparring matches. Have you read all those rules?
Dude, the boxing commission is going to ruin boxing.
Oh, it's horrible.
Like I've never seen a commission with such ego. I've never seen a commission that like is so actively hurting their own sport. It's insane to me.
They're trying to get locked in, and they got their people who are locked in anyway. If you want to box, they would box.
Well,
you
what
know
it
I mean?
is it's creating bureaucracy so that you can create jobs. It's like everything I hate about government. It's like, stop. You guys don't need to be a part of this. You're actively killing your own sport. If you are sitting there saying the fact, Eric Steenberg was on the Zach and Pat show, and he was talking about how like in the year of our Lord 2025, they still have like the boxing books. For those of you that don't know what this is, it's literally a book where it was supposed to predate the internet. So like essentially, if Mike was a boxer, and Mike was telling a promoter, "I'm 5-0," let's say. The promoter could be like, okay, well, let me see your book, because every time you had a fight, the boxing commission would kind of like stamp a page. Think of like a passport when you go travel, but for fighting. Well, the problem with that is like, you can tell me that you're, 5-0, and you could have had like a book that was filled with all these stamps, and you just throw it away, and then you have a new book with like 3 or 4 stamps on it. You're like, oh, I'm 3-0. See, look at my book. Meanwhile, it was so easy to like sandbag and
you could have 100 fights
and you can still do that shit today. Thank God for things like Tapology and SureDog and all these like websites that created like catalogs to essentially like, create a database for this shit. It's never been, when I had Rob Donaker on here, he's the matchmaker for Shamrock FC, and when I had Lance on, who was the matchmaker for NFA, we were actively talking about how like the job of matchmaking is both easy and harder. Easier in the sense that you have so much information on the fighters now, where before it was like all about like
we didn't know anything
connections.
back in the day.
Well, the matchmakers would have connections, right? Like they would know the gym owners, and this is a stand-up guy. He wouldn't lie to me, X, Y, and Z. Now it's like you can't really lie about that. It's pretty well cataloged. However, the problem isn't necessarily the information. Now the problem is getting guys to accept fighting one another. Because here's the inverse of what you were saying about opportunities. Well, the problem is that everybody's chasing money now. So like what happened to boxing it has happened to MMA, where it's like, you get people that actively talk about like, you don't need to have tough fights. Like you don't need to test yourself. Get to 3-4-0, get on Contender Series, get a flashy knockout, boom, you're in the UFC. But it's just like, okay, are you prepared for it? Like what happens if you go out there and you don't have the experience that you think you should have, or you get a couple losses, now you get cut. Now you went from, local stud into the UFC. Now you're the UFC vet, and like getting back in there, good luck. It's going to be fucking rough. And there are nothing but tough fights after that. Look at Dakota Bush. God bless him. Like ever since he got cut, he's just been having killer after killer after killer, and he still hasn't gotten re-signed. I don't know what he's going to have to do to get re-signed, if he can get re-signed.
Yeah, hopefully it wasn't somebody didn't care for him for some reason. It was just, because of a fight.
No, it's just to go back to the whole thing about boxing, is just like the boxing commission is just so I don't even understand why it exists anymore. You have the St. Louis Athletic Commission that handles MMA and handles like professional wrestling, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, they still in conjunction work with the Boxing Athletic Commission. So why do we have this separate commission sit just for boxing when technically Tim Lukanoff and his team can knock this out? They're there anyway. It's not like they're not doing
about
it.
The money.
Yeah, it's about the money. You're creating bureaucracy. You're hurting your sport in order to create jobs that don't need to exist. And if you look at any of these boxing matches, It's these old heads, dude. Like, I think the average age of your boxing commissioner is like 80. I'm sorry. Move on.
Old school.
Move. Not even old school. It's useless school. Because like I would call old school like people that have value. Like, it's good to have them around because they have circumstance and legacy and perspective. What the fuck are you getting from these people? They're useless. Get the fuck away. You're killing your own sport. You're hurting the boxers.
Yeah.
That's why more people are going for MMA now. Boxing is literally dying. Not to be a Debbie Downer. Sorry. What's the future for you? What's the next step for you? Do you ever want to have another gym? Would you ever do it?
No. I got the boxing ring down in my basement. We hit mitts, and I hold mitts for a few people.
Nice. Like, just kind of...
My gal.
You don't advertise it?
No.
Do you talk to any of the people from back in the day, like the Newman brothers or Bo and all them? Mm-hmm. Do you guys reminisce a lot?
Stay close. We reminisce. The Newman boys were good. Yeah. Damien was a stud. Eric was a stud. Jason just liked to fight.
Jason, you're a stud too.
He's a stud.
Oh man, I actually need to get Bo on. I remember I had a conversation with him after a UFC, and I need to get him and his son on because that was a conversation I want to have about, like, Bo is a fighter, and then he ended his career, and now it's like his son is currently doing it, and I just wanted to have a conversation with both of them, like, because I don't have a son, you know what I mean? But if I did, that's actually a good question. Do any of your kids fight?
Maddie runs a gym, her own gym.
Really?
Yeah.
Like fight gym?
Yeah.
What's it called? Where at?
I think it's called Queer Fight Club.
No shit. Is she gay?
Yeah.
That makes sense. I was like, it's a very like, either it's an oxymoronic title or it's a very on the nose title.
I joke she's teaching everybody all my old tricks.
Stole that from me. Dude, I kind of eclipsed a lot of the questions I had for you, Mike. Before we put a nightcap on this, man, is there anything you want to touch on? Is there any stories you want to tell? Is there anything that you want to reminisce on or wisdom you want to part?
I don't know. I don't have nothing special like that I got to come up with. I don't know.
Oh, man, I will say this about you. You're a riot in the back. It's funny to see you right now. You're more nervous for this. This is the most nervous I've seen you. It's interesting. It's interesting because you were always the kind of guy that you did fire me up in the back. I'll be honest with you. Like, I remember every fight I had, you'd be right there, like, fuck him up here. And I was like, oh, thanks, Mike. Appreciate you.
I try to run across.
But then I heard him one time say to my opponent when they were walking out, fuck him up. I was like, hey, Mike, relax. You're on my side.
Well, that's what I was going to say is I enjoy being back there and pumping up. And sometimes I do got to talk to both sides.
I get it.
Obviously.
You're Switzerland, neutral.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I always got who I'd like to win. You know what I mean?
Let me ask you this, actually. Are there, and this is what we'll probably end with, are there any fighters on your radar right now at the local scene that you think are like the next up-and-coming guy?
There's that kid fighting this weekend from out in Cuba, Missouri. Oh, what is his name? I'm bad. I shouldn't even bring it up now.
Amateur or pro?
I believe he's pro.
Gotta bring up the card. Do you mind going on Tapology, Tony, and bring up the... Thank you. I think it's 322? 320? What number is this, Shamrock? Man,
I know.
My CTE.
I laugh because I'm like, well, I wonder when the first one I was even on. We didn't call them by the numbers.
You guys used to have like by names, like Mayhem or. Mm-hmm. There's only so many like adjectives you can give a fucking card before you just start calling them stupid stuff like Shamrock FC parking lot.
Fight night at Lucky's. There was so many different spots.
When I started fighting for Shamrock, they were still naming their cards like a name. Like I remember, I think my first fight with them was Cortavius Romeus, and it was on Mayhem. And then like shortly after that, they started numbering.
You fought Cortavius?
Yeah, Romeus. Yeah. That was my first.
He's another one got in the UFC, right?
Yeah, but we'll talk.
Nothing.
Would he be towards the top?
He's from Cuba, Missouri. I keep forgetting his damn name. He's fought on reality submission fighting shows before too.
But no, yeah, that was my Cortavius. No. Sorry, guy from Cuba, Missouri. I will see you on Saturday. I'm sure you're a stud. No, that was actually my first fight on there. That was my first experience with because I fought exclusively for Jim Jenkins.
Was that at River City then?
Yeah, that was River City. Yeah, River City's kind of like bittersweet for me. So like when I was at Ameristar, I've won all my fights at the Ameristar. River City, however, both of my losses are in that River City casino. So whenever I go to River City, I'm just kind of like, oh man, you guys have been rough to me. It's interesting.
Yeah, I would have liked to have fought at River City. That was my old block.
You want to know the best place I've ever fought at? The most we were talking about, like, you know, feeling like the man or whatever, was Fight Hard.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, the family arena was just like, I remember as an amateur. And
I fought Jason Powell on a day's notice at that for show.
At Fight Hard?
Yeah.
Jake Collier?
It's Jake Collier's boy.
Hiley?
Hiley, yeah.
What's his
Jacob
name?
Jacob
Hiley.
Jacob Collier is his coach, yes.
Okay.
Is it Jacob Hiley? No. Dude.
Yeah, Jacob Hiley.
Thank you. Jacob Hiley, Cuba, Missouri. Yeah. Forgive me, Mr. Hiley. You are a beast. I would also say, I'd be curious to see, I'm curious to see how he fights, but I'm also curious to see when he faces like a little bit of a step up in competition as well. You know what I mean? I think he's got all the building blocks. I think he's explosive, athletic, dangerous, and all these other things. But I also want to see, what he does with some adversity. Does that
Jake's
make sense?
another guy. He used to come down to my gym at Southside.
Collier?
Yeah, he used to come down and fight. I'm horrible with names. Chris Heatherly?
Oh, Stump?
Yeah, Stump. And they'd spar, go
Do
bang.
you talk to Stump at all, out of curiosity?
Every once in a while.
Will
I'm friends
you-
with his wife on Facebook.
Will you let him know that I would like to have him on the podcast? I just like, I've messaged him, but I don't know if it goes like spam on his side, or maybe he just doesn't want to do a podcast. But he's one person I wanted to talk to too, because he was one of the guys that did get signed to the UFC like early, and he was, I think, Steve Berger's only fighter that did. You know what I mean? And I don't think Stump got like a whole lot of respect from the community, or he didn't really get his roses, and I'm not really
He fought
sure
that
why.
big tall guy that time, I remember, on UFC. Lost.
Yeah.
I cornered him when he fought Kane Royer here that time at right down the street.
God, Kane Royer too. Yeah, man, these are.
He knocked Kane out with a head kick, and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. Sorry, Kane. Shout out to Kane.
Oh, Kane's a great guy. I love Kane, but I remember that fight like yesterday.
Yeah. No, I to go back to the thing, that was my first time fighting for Shamrock, was the Cortavius, and I remember that was a big splash for me personally, because Shamrock was the first promotion I had. No disrespect to Jim Jenkins, but his promoting was kind of like old, like still did exclusively just the posters or like Facebook posts, like. But Shamrock was the first promotion that like put me in front of a camera and like let me talk about my opponent, and I was like, sure, if you guys want. And I just talked a bunch of shit, and they're like, this kid's great. You know
Yeah,
what I
it's
mean?
great seeing how it's changed like that over the years. Because back in the day, we didn't even know who we were fighting. I'd show up at weigh-ins and be like, oh, that's my guy right there. There's your guy.
Well, I'd make the comment that like, I feel like the promotions have never been trying more. Like they've been doing a great job, but I feel like the fighters kind of like. I'm gonna make a comment. I don't know if you're gonna agree with me. I feel like a lot of these fighters do not put any fucking thought into promoting themselves. Like zero.
I see a handful of guys becoming. I was big on selling shirts and getting people to come to my after party. I mean, my bar would make. I remember one time it was the best night we ever had at the bar, but we had everybody from the show came to the bar afterwards.
Yeah, it was like the after party, the place to hang out.
And luckily, I won that night. But yeah, I see people now, and if they got 50 people out in the crowd with a T-shirt on supporting them, that's doing something.
Yeah, that's also the minority of people now, though. When I was coming up, like you knew who was there for who, because they always had like that fighter shirt, and it could be. I remember like some fighters had like very simple ones, and like that was the differentiator. Like all the fighters when I was coming up actively tried to promote themselves, actively tried to either make their own websites or make their own merchandise, or you know, because social media was still kind of nascent at that time. You know, get you to go to their Facebook page or whatever. Nowadays, I just feel like there's just no emphasis in that. And I feel like that's just a missed opportunity. I was talking about this with Demi on the very last episode that came out tonight. We were talking about like, I sponsored a couple fighters. And when I tell you the return on that investment was zero. And then I bought like some ad space on Google ads and stuff like that. And the return was like 1,000 to 1. I was just thinking to myself, like, fighters sponsoring an athlete should never feel like a charity. Even if it is, you as a fighter should do something. And I remember when I got sponsors, I would do everything that I could to like try my hardest to promote my own brand, my own my own sponsors and everything to kind of like uplift all of us. I'm just like not outside of like Lily Helton. I don't know a single person who promotes themselves. Like I'm not excited about like no offense to Jacob Hiley, he's a great fighter, and I want to say this. I am not diminishing the acumen of fighting. Like these guys are phenomenal fighters. I'm not saying that they can't fight. It's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is like that art of like promoting is dead. It's dead.
I think
outside of what Shamrock does or outside of what NFA does, like outside of, I think promoters have never promoted more, and I think the fighters have never promoted less.
I don't know. I don't pay that much attention to all the up and comers like promoting themselves until I'm at the show.
Well, would you if they did it better? Isn't that the whole point of promotion? Is like you're not really paying
Possibly,
attention until someone comes in front of your face and is like, "Hey, pay attention to me. Look at me."
But then it comes to the same thing we're talking about, like Paddy Pimblett getting his shot possibly at a title. It's because he promotes himself and he's got all the fans and.
Yes, to a degree, and also he beat the fuck out of Michael Chandler.
And he is.
You know what I mean?
He doesn't have any losses.
I mean his win against Michael Chandler was arguably more dominant than when Justin Gaethje or Dustin Poirier fought him.
Yeah.
So like, yes, there is some truth to
MMA science or math.
MMA math is on paper makes no sense. But I guess what I'm trying to say is like there's nuance to what you're saying, and I don't disagree with what you're saying that like this guy's kind of getting the jump up because of his popularity, but also, I mean, he is undefeated and he did beat everybody in front of him, and he had exciting fights and beat the shit out of Bobby Green, beat the shit out of Michael Chandler.
I know personally, I was main event on a few shows because I sold more tickets than anybody, and because people were.
Did
coming
that ever
there
make
to
you
see me.
feel any type of way? I took pride in that.
Yeah,
Dude, when I sold like 200 tickets, I was like, fuck yeah.
Yeah, it made me feel good. People want to come.
Yeah.
But some people wanted to come see me lose, but I'd
Who
still
cares?
sell them a ticket.
Yeah, whatever.
You know what I mean?
I don't care why you're showing up. Yeah. Just show up. I don't care if you hate me or love me. I just want you to feel something. I want to be careful how I say this too. Like, I remember, man, this is going to sound like Debbie Downer, like I got like, salt or something like that. I'm not attacking any individual person, but I just don't feel the same energy for these shows like they used to be.
They used to be parties.
Yes. They were like,
people came dressed up. The girls were all dressed up.
Well, they still come. I will say that at a Shamrock event, they still come dressed up. It's like I don't want to say like higher class, but you know what I mean? You're getting a little bit of a different demographic. But I just remember them being so much more, like when Jim Jenkins had a card, even though I wasn't fighting on some of them, I still wanted to go. You know what I mean? I'm not necessarily getting, and I wanted to go because there was a story to every card, like Kirchhoff is fighting or Donahue is fighting, or at the time Sampo was fighting, or whoever was coming up. Like there were stories, and there were these guys that were like bigger than the card itself, kind of carrying that card, and I just don't fucking get that anymore. And maybe it's time. Maybe I've seen so many fights, so like they don't really have like the same effect on me. But whenever I'm at the fights, I'm super excited. I'm super jazzed. Every time I go to a fight, I think to myself, man, I just need like 6 months to get back in shape, and I can get back into this shit. I'm only 32. You know what I mean? And then I start thinking, like, oh, beat the shit out of all these fun motherfuckers. You know what I mean? And then I'm like, all right, relax, Arion. You're fat. Relax. I got to talk myself out of that. But no, I don't know. Maybe I'm grasping at straws here. I'm just not as excited for these fights. And that's not because I don't like fights. I love fights. I love watching fights.
Well, back then, though, too, it was people you knew and were big fans of more, too, right?
But that's the thing.
Because they made you become
But
fans.
that's the thing. Why don't I know these people? When all I see on social media is like, the promotions doing everything they can to promote these guys. They're making the posters. They're making all these things. And I feel nothing for them. Not the way I used to feel for... Dude, I used to get excited for amateurs back in the day fighting. When like Fierce Taylor would fight, people would take notice. When Damian Newman would fight, people would take notice. When I would fight, people would take notice. We were like, there were stories behind this. We were talking shit amongst each other and you know what I mean, creating rivalries and tension and all that. There's just like none of that nowadays, which is like, I don't know. I get it that everyone wants to go to the UFC and it's like, don't be the big fish in a small pond, but like, dude, be careful not to kill your sport in the process. I don't know. Any advice you got for the young fighters?
Yeah, fuck fight and foot race. That's about all I got.
Mike, I appreciate you spending the time with me, man. I know you could be anywhere else, and being on here, kind of talking about the past a little bit, and your story, I do appreciate it. Before we put a nightcap on there, is there anything else you want to say or talk about before we put a cap to this?
I just want to thank all my friends. Everybody used to come and check me out, and I mean, I made myself who I am by being the fighter I am, and I realize that, and I'm happy where I'm at, and life's crazy, but just keep on fighting, you know what I'm saying?
God bless, brother. Mike, I appreciate you, man. Thank you. That was a good grip. Jesus. Wasn't ready for that.